Let's look at this problem. Layla took 5 math tests, each worth a maximum of 100 points. Layla's score on each test was an integer between 0 and 100 inclusive. Layla received the same score on the first 4 tests, and she received a higher score on the last test. Her average score on the 5 tests was 82. How many values are possible for Layla's score on the last test? This problem is about the definition of an average. As to such problems, there are a couple of ways to solve that. And in this video, we are going to introduce 2 ways to look at this problem. One is the standard way, and the other will be a little bit quicker but smarter way. Alright, let's look at the first method. In the first method, we'll do the calculation with the definition of an average. Right? In order to do that, let's set the score, test the score is x in the first 4 tests, right? Because the same score on the first 4 tests. And then we set the test score to be x plus a for the last, where a is greater than 0. And of course, x and a are both integers. We'll write it out. X and a are natural numbers. Now, we will plug in these scores into the definition of an average. So the average would be 4x, that's the sum of the first 4 tests, plus x plus a. And that number is the sum of all 5 tests divided by 5, and that gives you 82. We know the average score on the 5 tests was 82. Good. And the standard way to handle this formula is to derive the sum of all scores. And then we will play with the numbers and the equation with an integer solution. Okay, we multiply 5 on both sides, and that gives us 5x, that's 4x plus a equals 410. And now we know that this equation should have integer solutions, right? And if we look at the right hand side, we know that this number is divisible by 5, and this 5x is of course divisible by 5. Therefore, this a got to be a multiple of 5, right? And a should not be 0. Remember, a is greater than 0. Good. And then we'll have, let's write it here. Then we'll have, let a be 1 times 5. That's a multiple of 5. So a equals 5. And then 5x equals 410 minus 5. That's 405. This implies x equals 81. Then let's do the next. A equals 2 times 5, right? And that is 10. In that scenario, 5x equals 410 minus 10. That's 400. And this gives x equals 80. And don't forget, in the first scenario, when x equals 81 and a equals 5, the last test score, x plus a, equals 86. And in the second scenario, x plus a equals 90. And then a equals 3 times 5 equals 15. So 5x equals That's 410 minus 15. That's 395. Therefore, x equals 79. Then x plus a equals 79 plus 15. That's 94. Actually, we don't have to do all the calculations. So from now, you should see that there's a pattern, right? Every time the last test score increases by 4, right? From 86 to 90, from 90 to 94. Therefore, the next one, a equals 4 times 5 equals 20. We should have x plus a equals 98. We'll skip the full calculation. If you are curious, you can pause the video and complete the calculation yourself. Therefore, the next one plus 4 again, that will be over 100. That will be 102. That's not possible. So we have 4 possible values for the last test score, from 86 to 98. Good. Therefore, the answer is A. A is our choice. Then let's look at the second method, which requires a lot less calculation. We'll browse down to have more space, and let's take a look. So in the second method, we will think of the average as the pivoting point of a scale or of a balance. So it's like this. Let's call this 82. That's the balancing point or the average of all 5 scores, right? And at the same time, we know that the last test score shall be higher than the first 4. Therefore, none of them shall equal 82. And don't forget, the first 4 test scores are the same. Therefore, we use small blocks to represent these 4 test scores. And then we know that there is a higher test score in the last test. Now what? Then let's look at the difference between the first 4 test scores and the average of 82. What's the difference? Since these 4 scores shall be lower than 82, right? Then we can make them 81. In that scenario, this distance, we call that d. D shall be equal to 1, right? And then there is a deficit from 82 to this 81. Since we have 4 blocks here, so this deficit is minus 4. Therefore, for this score on the right-hand side, it got to provide some surplus to offset this deficit. Then how much surplus do we need? We certainly need a plus 4, right? Therefore, the last test score, let's call this last test score, shall be 82 plus 4 equals 86. What if the first 4 test scores are 2 points away from the average? When d equals 2, then these values are 80, right? What's the deficit now? Then the deficit now is 2 times 4, right? We'll have a negative 8 deficit. Therefore, the last test score should provide 8 points surplus to offset that. Therefore, this got to be 8 points surplus. Then the last test score would be 82 plus 8 equals 90. And again, we shall see this pattern, right? But let's still complete the rest of the work. Then the next one would be deficit would be 3 points per test score for the first 4. Then they are really 79, right? At that time, what's the deficit? The deficit will become negative 3 times 4. that's 12, right? Then the surplus got to be 12. Therefore, the last test score is 82 plus 12, that's 94. Then for the next one, D equals 4, then this is 78. Then this is 82 plus 4 times 4 equals 82 plus 16, that's 96. 98. Right? And then this is the last one. The next one would be 102, so that's impossible. Therefore, we have 4 possible scores for the last test. Let's go back to the problem and check the choices. 4. The answer is 4, the same as the first method. If you like the video, please subscribe the channel and give a like. If you have questions, please comment.